Thank you. No, I'm so happy that you guys can join virtually as well. So thank you for having me and all the great work that you're all doing. Honestly, I've just had so much fun sitting and listening to the opening act, I feel like. I'm like, I want the mask so I can just get into the spirit. So thank you. So I have 3 children, one of which is a daughter, so she's 10. So my kids are 12, 10, and 7. And my middle, she's my daughter. She's my favorite right now. I don't know about you guys, but I swear to God, I'm like, some days none of them are my favorites, but Emma is my favorite right now because she is so kick-ass. And she's one of those people where I'm just like, I wish I was her at the age of 10. She plays hockey, and she is so good at it, so I couldn't be more proud of her. But beyond that, she's just a really good human being. So I always say that my kids are my greatest accomplishments and my greatest work in progress, and I think that many of you can probably relate to that. They teach me so much about me and also areas in which I need to develop more and where I'm flat, and I'm okay with that. They are my greatest teachers. So a little bit more about me. If you can advance the slide, that'd be great. So as Jennifer mentioned, I'm a leadership coach. I coach highly ambitious women and emerging leaders, and I'm a leadership development expert. Again, been doing this for a really long time. And the book is an intricate part of my experience. It's my lived experience in which, during many parts of my life, I was really trying to navigate what does success look like for me? Is it that path that I've been told, which is climb the corporate ladder, put in the hours, do the grind, and work 50, 60, have the kids, balance it all? Is that what really felt authentic to me? And in my 20 plus years, I found that I was really doing the work of trying to navigate what that was for myself and really tuning into what is authentically success in the ways that I define it. Is it climbing the corporate ladder? Is it off-tracking? Is it part-timing? Is it not working at all? Of which, guess what? I've done all of those things in the spirit of finding what resonates with me in my life. And my kids were obviously an intricate part of that. And also for all the women that I got to coach and have the honor of coaching, my goodness, they would say things like, is this it? When I really dig down and listen to what my voice is telling me, I feel like there's something more. I feel like there's something that's missing. And whether you're a mom or not, and all of you are moms here, the things that come up when you're quiet and you allow yourself to process. Things like, I'm missing parts of myself, or this path doesn't feel as authentic to me as I thought it would. Maybe I'm living out of others' expectations. Or I had a client say to me, I'm going to take that CPA exam, nothing wrong with that. But when she talked about the other option of, oh my gosh, but when I do this coaching thing, and immediately I knew, you're going to take the CPA test, but you light up when you talk about coaching, seems clear to me what you should do. So it's in all of those experiences as well, and working with women, that I wrote this book, really just to talk about there are other ways and there are other paths outside of what's told and outside of what is shared with us about the shoulds and what traditional success looks like. So that's why I wrote the book. And again, my 3 kids, oh, there they are with masks on. This was a celebration dinner I took them to when my book was launched. So they are obviously my inspiration in that. All right, please. All right. The other thing that really inspired me writing this book was another book, actually, called Lean In. Who's heard of that? Who's read it? Many of you. So this was at the height of when Sheryl Sandberg's book was like going viral. I want to say 2013, 2014. And it took me a year to read it because, of course, I was like busy and doing all the things and having lots of humans. And I finally read the book because I was like, I want to know what this hype is about. And I remember one day, this must have been like 2015, I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine, and somebody that I deeply respect. She's a mother to 2 kids as well. And she was like, oh my gosh, have you read the book? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, I loved it so much. Like, what did you think of it? And I had to stop and get really honest with her. And I said, I actually didn't like the book. And it was such a contrary opinion. People were like, oh. Everybody was loving the book, and rightfully. There were some really good gems and really good things to take away from the book. But for me, I felt like it would have been a disservice if I didn't say, it did not feel to me as though we were honoring all the different ways that success looked. For me, it talked about one flat, one-dimensional, one path of do the grind, be at the table. Nothing wrong with being at the table if that is absolutely what you want to do, and that is your unique definition of success. Do that, and do it unapologetically. But for me, in my 20 plus years of trying to figure out, okay, do I want to stay at home, part-time it? How do I do this? What does it even look like? Oh my gosh, help me. That felt like a disservice to all the women out there and all the people that were saying, no, not for me. So when I shared that with her, she was like, oh, I get it. But that was another piece of why I felt the need to really write a book that was about how do we honor our whole selves and honor the milestones that we all go through in our lives that are very unique. Okay? And the core message of the book is that success is defined by you. And more, that was a message for me because I was absolutely living out of the expectations of me. Being an immigrant from an immigrant family, I didn't come to the States until I was 6. And with that came a lot of expectations, whether they were outright told to me or not, about what success looked like. As a little girl, I went with my parents cleaning offices and wishing one day that I could have that corner office. So that from a very early on was my story and told upon me about what success looked like here, for women especially. Get your education, do the grind, put in the hours. And so I did that, like a very dutiful daughter. I worked 60, 70 hours on top of having 3 kids and felt miserable. I was on the fast track to burnout city. And I think that a lot of women can really recognize that we do so much for everyone all the time, because guess what? We're really good at it. We can spin a lot of plates and we do it so well that we don't ever stop to say, is that what we really want? Is that in service of us? Because guess what? When we tune into that, it might not look like that, and that's really scary. So success is something that we can define and that we can actually take risks to get closer to and achieve. And there's so much power when you really think about it from that perspective, that we can actually define it and own it. There is some work that's associated with that, though. We can't just go, well, you know what, this path isn't for me, and sometimes that looks like off-tracking, sometimes that looks like staying at home. Whatever that looks like, it takes work. And there's what I call three requirements. One being reflection. You have to, we're so busy, we're on hyperspeed all the time. I see it in all of the women and the people that I coach. Oh my gosh, one Zoom after another, after another, after another, back to back to back, always going. And it's almost like a virus that just perpetuates itself, busyness. And so how rare is it that we get to slow down and create pockets of reflection for ourselves so that we can ask, is this what I want? Is this in service of the season that I'm in? And is this aligned to my vision of success? So definitely creating points of reflection is key. And the other thing I think that is hard, definitely for me challenging at times, is a curiosity, a mindset of curiosity, which is all about being open to what's possible. What are the possibilities in front of me, and what haven't I thought about? How can I tap into others' wisdom in this room, the people that I know, to help me look at things differently? And that means suspending judgment. Not saying, well, no, I can't do that, because there are actually a million reasons that we make up if we want to. And if we just suspend that for a moment and embrace a mindset of curiosity, it's all about exploring what the possibilities are. And then guess what? You have to actually take some action. It takes work, it takes action, it takes a lot of what I call missteps and not mistakes. I'm very intentional about that because everything that we do adds up to experience. And so one of the things I talk about and that I'm super passionate about is that there is no mistake. It's just action. It's just data. When we look at it from a data perspective, okay, I can look behind me. What did that tell me? then you can take another step forward, having more data that gets you closer to where you want to go. So it's not about, oh gosh, that was like the worst thing ever. How would we have known that? We're only always making decisions based on what we know in the moment. Okay? So those three things: reflection, curiosity, and some risk taking. Okay. Oh, the other way. Don't send us backward, please. And also for those joining virtually, if you have questions, please put it in the chat. Happy to take them, whatever is resonating for you. All right. So then what gets in the way? So I talked about three things that are kind of required to get authentic alignment. God, that's a hard word. And there's some things that get in the way, which is the first thing, and I hear this over and over and over again with everyone that I coach, almost 99%, perfectionism. It's very sneaky. The want and the desire and the need to do it all and to please everyone. All of our kids, all three of my kids, my friends, my sister, everyone in my life wanting to balance. When we are driven by perfectionism, that is very closely coupled to trying to balance it all. And please hear me when I say this. I have an allergic reaction to balance. And we are so ingrained in thinking that that is the way to achieve, or that is what we should achieve. One of the things I put in my book is at the start of every conference that has a woman panel or woman or anybody, any ambitious woman on it, the first question or the second out the gate is, how do you do it all? And then they have to sit there and answer, well, and do some sort of lip service to this balancing thing. Balance puts us on the treadmill to nowhere but exhaustion. Absolutely. It's a straight road to burnout. I know, because I was on it. I was on my couch one day. I had 3 young kids at the time, much younger than they are now. Literally fell asleep sitting up. I didn't know you could do that, but I did, because I was coaching soccer, working 60 hours a week, wanting to do it perfectly for my daughter because I wanted her to love soccer. My other 2 kids, I had gone grocery shopping that day, did whatever else I did that day, and I just was exhausted. Like, you know that bone tired that you get, right? Yeah. Am I the only mom that felt that? No. It was that, and I was driven by, when I really looked at it, this need to balance it all. I wanted to do well at work. I thought I wanted to climb more and more and more and go straight up, and didn't even look sideways at what else were the possibilities. And it was really then when my body was like, listen, you gotta hold up. We're not with you. Your mind and your thoughts might be 10 steps ahead, but we're not doing this anymore. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question.
Of course.
I'm really into this, so good. This is great for me. Can you repeat the part about attempting to balance, though? Because that is totally contrary to what we are all told.
Ooh.
So you had a little one-liner, and I'm trying to write it down, but
Yeah.
So balancing is not the answer.
It is not the answer, and thank you for listening.
Okay. Just to clarify.
I say that because I'm like, who's hearing me out there? It is not the answer, and I want to provide you with a different way of looking at it, which is called integration.
Okay. Well, you're welcome.
Thank you. I love it.
You're thinking you fell asleep sitting up, so you were like totally out.
I mean, trying to do that all the time, right? Even in my sleep. Good God. So I will touch on that. Thank you. It's like I planted her in the seat. Being driven by perfectionism is something that I see all the time, right? And not balancing. So we'll get to the balancing aspect. The second one is judgment. How many of you, whether you know that or not, judge yourselves? I do. Yeah, we all do. It's so sneaky. That voice is in there all the time. Why didn't you do that differently? Ooh, why didn't you say that better? You didn't look put together. All of that. My inner critic is called Sasha. I gave her a name because I'm like, you're done today. So the point being is that we all have the inner critic in our voice. Sometimes she's super loud, sometimes not, but she's always running. And when we are harshly judging ourselves, that then makes us judge others. And that closes us off to connection, to wanting to get to understand what are the paths that you all took, what was unique about your story so that I can learn something from that, right? So judgment is a very sneaky thing. And then the third thing that gets in the way, all the shoulds. All the shoulds. I mean, we're shoulding ourselves all over the place. You should be working out. You should be making the dinner. Why aren't you at the volunteer at class? Why aren't you volunteering for bigger projects at work? You should be. All the shoulds that run in our head, along with the judgment and perfectionism. We could be really mean to ourselves. And by extension to each other sometimes. So when you're aware of these things, the point is not to ever get rid of them because that's kind of impossible. What I believe is that it starts with awareness. What are we telling ourselves? And then how do we reframe that for each other, for ourselves, okay? So those are the three things that gets in the way. So then what are we supposed to do? There's a lot of things that get in the way. So what am I proposing? What I'd like to offer is a radically different way of looking at it. Instead of balancing, how about we strive for an integrated life? Integrated. That feels so much more achievable and more aligned versus trying to spin all the plates of everyone else's shoulds and what we think society and family and all that expects of us. So what does that mean? Well, an integrated life is getting rid of, again, being aware of what the shoulds are and like putting that aside. Get quiet, reflect, think about the first thing. What are your values? Get clear on those values. Sometimes it's clear. I value travel, I value freedom, I value family. Sometimes it's really clear and easy to bring up. Other times it may not be. So it requires us to really think about, okay, if I think about all the things I give energy and priority to, what are those things? Is that aligned to what I value? And if it's not, bingo, that's when you have misalignment and where you feel like, ugh, something's off. If you value creativity, if you value money, how is that integrated into your life versus how you're actually living your life? Okay? So what are those values? And oh, by the way, I have a values identification exercise on my website. So it's there and it helps you really whittle down what are those top values. No more than 2 to 3. Anything else is secondary, okay? So get clear on that. And then from that, marry that with the season of life that you're in. So what that means is for all of you here, you have older daughters, right? Yeah. Some people might have younger kids. Other people might have kids that are in college. Others might not have any at all, and they're in a different season of life. So what does that look like? And really looking at it from the fluidity. Because I think there are oftentimes people that are very rigid about it. Okay, I'm a lawyer. I got to stay a lawyer for the rest of my life. And if that's authentic to them, great. Do that unapologetically. But if it's not, and your life moves with seasons, let's think about what season you're in, and is that aligned to your values? So for me, my kids are a little bit older. They're no longer, needing diaper changing and all of that. That means I have a little bit more freedom, and I love my work. Creativity and freedom is embedded into the work that I do, so I get to lean into that a little bit more. That means I get to be here with all of you and not worry that, they're not going to get breakfast. It's a different season, and I'm honoring that, and I'm okay about that. Whereas before, I used to feel guilty about missing everything. I missed it all. I was working so much, and maybe I could have, given myself grace and realigned and honored the season a little bit differently. Does that make sense? Is that resonating? Okay. So when you get clear on those two things, then you get to integrate that into your life. So what does integrating that into your life look like? Well, for example, it literally means take a look at your time. How are you spending your time? Look at your calendar. Do you guys live by your calendar? I have my phone. I'm like always on it's like I'm air traffic controlling my life. I'm calendaring everything. So when you have that view, you can look at your calendar and go, okay, if I absolutely value health and fitness, is that integrated into my weekly schedule? Oh, no, it's not. I haven't gone outside all week. So that's where misalignment happens, because the weeks add up to years. I skipped a whole thing. Weeks add up to months, add up to years. Okay, so if we just roll and not think about this intentionally and how we're spending our time, there goes the years of feeling misaligned and burned out and like there's something missing. So really literally examine your calendar. How are you spending it? And are those things incorporated into it? Which might mean that you have to take some things out. Okay? And then of course, the reminder is get rid of all else around the shoulds. You know, maybe now's not the time to be working out. Maybe it's more about caring for loved ones or whatever that season is, and really just honoring that. Okay? So as we get towards the end of the talk, and I think Jen, you and I are still doing Q&A, right? There's two simple things. If you take nothing else away, just remember this: take time to pause. And the book guides you. It's like a little coach in your pocket. Has reflection questions and has things for you to think about. But the first thing, if you want to do nothing else, is to just pause and determine where you feel unfulfilled. Is it in your spiritual realm, emotional realm, friendships? Is it in what area in your life or aspect of your life do you feel unfulfilled? And that's where you start to get curious. Okay, that's the starting point. And then if you want to take it one step further, identify your values. Go to my website. It will help you get clear on what that is. And those are the beginnings, right? Couple that with curiosity, and you'll take yourself closer to being aligned. All right. So my last thing, because we're doing quotes, and I have to share this one with you, which I think is so aligned to what I'm talking about. Be patient with yourself. Your growth is tender, it's holy ground, and there's no greater investment. Thank you.